The February 9th, 2016 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Ansello. Mr. Baroth. Ms. Boyce. Mr. Brew. Mrs. Brown. Dr. Carbone. Mrs. Conley. President Daniele.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Felder. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell. Ms. Harris. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Howland. Ms. Cayley. Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Marionetti. Mr. Michike. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Moyo. Mr. Rocco. Mr. Shepard. Ms. Taylor. Mr. Terp. Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Zale.
Please stay seated. I'd like to introduce at this time Dr. Rita Gaither of Pearl Ministries, who has been invited this evening by Legislator Lachey D. Harris.
It's important, good evening everyone, it's important that we are intentional in our prayers. And so when we receive this assignment, we begin to pray for the legislators. The scripture says that whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through comfort and patience of the scriptures might have hope. And without hope, the heart would fail. There are 29 of you. And so we have been declaring Jeremiah 29 and 11 over you, which says, I know the plans that I have towards you, plans to give you a hope and to give you a future. It's very, very important that we take our assignments seriously, that we have clean hands as legislators and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor swore deceitfully. One can chase 1,000, but two can chase 10,000. We declare balance over this assembly in the name of Jesus. We declare that they will be officers that you called them to be. We declare that they will be ministers unto their family as well as their community. We bless the students that are in the house today. We bless the city of Rochester in the name of Jesus. We feel that this is the time of explosion for this great city. And we declare that the Lord's will be done in this city. We thank you, God, for every family that's represented here. We declare that all purposes will be fulfilled in this mighty city of Rochester. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Dr. Gaither. I'd like to present you with this certificate on behalf of the Monroe County Legislature for participation. Thank you very much for coming. At this time, Legislator Cynthia Cayley will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Legislator Cayley. At this time, I ask that you remain standing. Without objection, we will take agenda item number 59 out of regular agenda order. Agenda number 59 is moved by Legislator Marionetti and seconded by Legislator Cayley. Will the clerk please read the resolution in memoriam for Brian J. Natale, Monroe County Sheriff's Deputy?
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of Brian J. Natale, Monroe County Sheriff Deputy. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deep sympathy at the recent passing of Brian J. Natale, Monroe County Sheriff Deputy. And whereas Brian Natale passed away on February 7, 2016. And whereas Brian passed after an inspirational 12-year fight with brain cancer. First diagnosed in 2004, he endured treatments and surgeries with strength and patience, and never allowed his fight to interfere with his work, his family, or his other wonderful relationships. And whereas Brian was a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, where he proudly served our country until 2003. And whereas, after finishing his enlistment, Brian redirected his protection to the people of Monroe County. He worked as a jail deputy for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, where he impacted the lives of countless inmates and fellow officers. And whereas, through it all, his family remained the most important part of his life. He married his best friend Angela in 2004, and 10 years later, the couple was ecstatic to be blessed with twins, daughter Sabrina and son Michael. Brian loved his children and leaves behind a powerful legacy for them to remember him by. And whereas Brian is survived by his wife and children, his parents, Bruce and Susan Natale, sisters Sally, Tommy Cranker, and Heather Tracy Eston, mother-in-law Cecilia D'Ambrosia, brother-in-law David and Kelly D'Ambrosia, sister-in-law Mary D'Ambrosia, and countless uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby requested to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
You can be seated. You have received your copy of the Journal of Day 2, January 12, 2016. Without exception, the journal stands approved as submitted. At this time, I'd like to welcome former legislator Robert Colby, who's joined us this evening. Welcome, Robert. Thank you for coming tonight. There is a hearing loop in place this evening to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire in the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic devices in your possession, I would request that you make it inaudible for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for next committee cycle are in your folders. This evening there are several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would representatives from the Frederick Douglass Foundation please come forward? Also, County Executive Cheryl D'Onofrio and President Anthony J. Daniele. Whereas, since 1976, the United States has been proud to celebrate Black History Month. Each year, the nation recognizes the contributions of African American citizens, both past and present. And whereas the theme of this year's Black History Month is Hallowed Grounds, Sites of African American Memories. The story of America cannot be told without reflecting on the places where African Americans have made history. It emphasizes the soldiers on battlefields where they fought bravely for their country, to writers and thinkers at leading colleges and universities, to innovative inventors and leaders in the business community. The themes allow us to acknowledge these places where history happened and became deeply tied to the African American experience. And whereas Monroe County is home to hallowed grounds where history was made, and our residents are proud to share in the celebration of African American accomplishments. Dozens of homes across the county were used as stops along the Underground Railroad from Greece to the city to Parenton, many of which still stand today. Our community was changed forever when Frederick Douglass chose to publish his abolitionist newspaper, the North Star, in Monroe County, and when Andrew A. Langston chose Rochester to plant his radio station, WDKX, owned and managed by members of the African American community. It quickly became a cultural hub that is today recognized as Monroe County's #1 rated radio station. And whereas Monroe County and Rochester enjoy a rich culture thanks to the countless contributions of local African American musicians, artists, athletes, educators, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and religious, business, and political leaders. Black History Month is a time to reflect on the influence African Americans have had on the betterment of our entire community. Now, therefore, we, Cheryl Denolfo County Executive, and the members of the Monroe County Legislature do hereby declare February 2016 as Black History Month throughout all of Monroe County. Congratulations.
President Danieli, members of the Legislature, Cheryl Denolfo, and fellow guests, on behalf of the members of the Frederick Douglass Foundation, we thank you for acknowledging the hard work that we do in our community to enhance and empower all Americans willing to work hard to achieve their full potential. My name is Peterson Vasquez, and I am the president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation of New York. The Frederick Douglass Foundation was started in 2010 by Aisha Kreutz as a state chapter to an effective and influential national organization with a mission to improve the perception of Christians and the Republican philosophy, to protect the New York State and federal constitutions, life, the sanctity of free market, limiting the role of government by creating, influencing, and promoting public policy, as well as educating individuals on the ill effects of big government, while empowering New Yorkers to hold accountable themselves, their neighbors, the elected officials, and those calling themselves community leaders. Now, the reason why the founders of the Frederick Douglass Foundation National chose the story of Frederick Douglass is because his story truly embodies the American dream. Frederick Douglass is the father of the Civil Rights Movement. He was a writer, a business owner, and one of the most prolific orators in the history. He wrote his first autobiography while he was a fugitive slave. He was a homeowner with a savings of almost $300,000, which equals to approximately $10 million in today's dollars. He was appointed to serve on the staff of 4 presidents. He was a champion abolitionist and a defender of women's rights. He was a world traveler who embodied the principles of God, the United States Constitution, and the Republican philosophy. He created a life that he could never have dreamed of while still a boy on Colonel Lloyd's plantation on the eastern shores of Maryland. Frederick Douglass believed in life, individual responsibility, limited government, and after reading the U.S. Constitution for himself, he had a profound respect for it. Douglass said, "What is possible for me is possible for you." He didn't blame, accuse, wallow, or envy. Instead, he rose up and fought to learn to read. He self-educated in one of the saddest and most horrific and oppressive times in American history. Acts chapter 17, verse 26 says, "From one man he made all nations, that they should inhabit the whole world, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands." Regardless of our skin color or heritage, we are Americans. And because of that, Frederick Douglass continues to unite all people, black, brown, or white, under our flag, which is why our mission has always remained strong. Thank you. Thank you again for the recognition for the hard work, and God bless each of you.
Would Aiden Early please come forward? Also, President Anthony J. Danieli and Legislator Kathleen A. Taylor. Whereas the NFL Punt, Pass, and Kick program is a national skills competition for boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 15 to compete against their peers. Established in 1961, the program is the oldest NFL youth football program, with thousands of boys and girls from around the country taking part in competitions every year from May through January. It is one of the world's largest youth sports participation programs. Competitors must punt, pass, and kick a football as far as they can and have only one chance to do each. And whereas Aiden Early has enjoyed participating in the punt, pass, and kick program in years past. Aiden won his age group 2 years ago but did not advance to the national championship. Undeterred, Aiden competed in the 8 and 9-year-old division this year, winning the school-wide, Rochester area, and regional rounds to advance to the national round at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis, home of the NFL's Colts. And whereas punting, passing, and kicking for a cumulative total distance of 221 feet and 6 inches, Aiden won the national championship and was honored the following day during the Colts game. It was a memory that will last a lifetime, and we are so proud Aiden calls the town of Greece and Monroe County home. And whereas Aiden's commitment to never giving up when not at first succeeding is an uncommon value to have at such a young age, he is an inspiration to all of us in Monroe County. Now, therefore, we, Anthony J. Daniele, President, and Kathleen A. Taylor, Legislator, District 19, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Aiden Early for winning the 8 and 9-year-old Division National Championship at the NFL Punt, Pass, and Kick Championships. Congratulations. Would representatives from Moonshadow's Spirit please come forward? Also, President Anthony J. Daniele and Legislator Matthew Terp. Whereas eating disorders are serious, potentially life-threatening conditions that affect both a person's emotional and physical health. 30 million people in the United States alone will be impacted by an eating disorder at some point in their lifetime, including 10 million men and boys who are less likely to seek help due to stereotypes and cultural biases. These conditions can affect anyone and do not discriminate by race, sex, age, or size. We are fortunate that locally there is an organization that helps those suffering from eating disorders. And whereas Moonshadow's Spirit honors the memory of Jennifer Mathiasen, who herself battled an eating disorder for 10 years. Under the pseudonym Moonshadow, Jennifer provided support and advice to women who were suffering from eating disorders of their own. Jennifer learned the stories of many women who suffered from conditions that are surrounded by myths and stereotypes and who could not afford the cost of treatment to get better. And whereas it is the mission of Moonshadow's Spirit to provide assistance to those who need help overcoming their conditions. Since March of 2010, Moonshadow's Spirit has provided over $100,000 to help members of our community receive treatment and begin the road to recovery. And whereas, as the month of February contains National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, we are reminded that there is much work to be done to help those who suffer from eating disorders. Organizations like Moonshadow's Spirit are dedicated to helping Monroe County's residents overcome these conditions, and we are grateful for all the work they do. Now, therefore, we, Anthony J. Daniele, President, and Matthew Terp, Legislator, District 8, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Moonshadow's Spirit for their continued efforts to help those suffering from eating disorders in our community. Congratulations.
I'm Sharon Mathiasen. My husband's hiding in the back there. He's also on our board. I want to thank Anthony Daniele and Matt Terp and the legislature for this proclamation. Moonshadow's Spirit was founded in memory of our daughter, Jennifer, who fully recovered from her eating disorder in 2005. Jen suffered with her disorder for 10 years and was very proud of her recovery. Jen performed at Jiva. She was the fiddler when JCC did Fiddler on the Roof. She graduated summa cum laude from Cornell and won writing awards from Cornell. But if you asked her what was her greatest achievement, she would say recovering from her eating disorder. After recovery, Jen spoke to junior high classes and helped others online through an online website where she was known as Moonshadow. When she died suddenly in 2009, we decided this foundation was the best way to keep her memory alive and continue with her message of hope and recovery. Our mission is to provide financial assistance to people with eating disorders who are seeking either residential treatment or partial hospitalization. We began providing assistance in March of 2010, and since then have given 49 awards for a total of nearly $112,000. We are, of course, very thankful for this acknowledgement, but there's also something you have done that is just as important. So let me introduce you to my friend Lauren. Lauren's son, Matt, developed an eating disorder when he began boot camp with the Navy. I met Lauren shortly after her son died in 2009. Together, we speak at high schools and colleges to raise awareness about eating disorders. But let me tell you about a recent incident. Lauren and I were having lunch with another mother whose daughter had died from anorexia. We had brochures about eating disorders on our table. The waitress came over, and when she saw our information, she said, "Oh, eating disorders. I should probably get one. I need to lose some weight." Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness. Yet people consider eating disorders to be nothing more than a diet fad for upper middle class girls. No one would say, "I wish I had schizophrenia." Then there was the joke on The View. Which would you rather have, anorexia or bulimia? Or the jokes on The Good Wife and Modern Family. There's even a new comedy on ABC called The Real O'Neills, where they have an anorexic son. There's nothing worse than losing a child. But when people mock your child's illness, it's as if he or she died again. So I want to thank you for taking this disease seriously and not giving it the eye roll. Eating disorders have a 20% mortality rate. They are not a choice. They are an illness. So I want to say thank you for giving eating disorders your attention and respect. Thanks.
Would Coach Rita Kladstrup and the Brighton girls soccer team please come forward? Also, President Anthony J. Daniele and legislators Justin F. Wilcox, James M. Shepard, and Joshua Baroth. Whereas it is the sense of these legislators to honor local sports teams that compete at a high level, demonstrating success and good sportsmanship on the field of play and character both on and off. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with long-standing tradition, these legislators are justly proud to honor the Brighton varsity girls soccer team upon the successful conclusion of the 2015 season. And whereas, following an 8-8 record in the regular season, Brighton was seeded 9th in the Class A Section 5 tournament. On its way to the sectional title, Brighton achieved 4 upset victories over 8th-seeded Honeoye Falls Lima, 1st-seeded Spencerport, 4th-seeded Greece Arcadia, and 2nd-seeded Wayne Central. And whereas these victories came in impressive fashion, Brighton blanked 3 of their 4 opponents, outscoring them by a combined total of 10-2 and defeating top-seeded Spencerport after fighting their way out of an early 0-2 deficit. And whereas the talented young athletes of Brighton are fortunate to be mentored and led by Coach Rita Kladstrup, who now has a second sectional title victory at Brighton to add to her coaching resume, and assistant coach Bridget Varon, who joined the squad this year and was beloved by the team for her good humor and coaching acumen. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Anthony J. Daniele, President, Justin F. Wilcox, Legislator District 14, James M. Shepard, Legislator District 23, and Joshua Baroth, Legislator District 24, honor the Brighton Varsity Girls Soccer Team members, coaches, dedicated assistants, and parents, and all others who made this season a success on this 9th day of February 2016. Congratulations.
I would like to thank Monroe County Legislative for this lovely award for these young ladies. These ladies are truly incredible. They excel in the classroom as well as on the field. They, being 8-8 in a season, I want to kind of look it up and look at the statistics to see if any team is 9th seed or being 8-8. So it's shown that they are truly determined and they have learned the entire season. And I've always told them that losing during the season is great because when we lose, we learn. We watch game tape, we change things, and they've overcome that with their determination, and their confidence has grown. And I truly, all season we have focused on controlling what we can control and not worrying about the wins and losses. So by controlling what you can control, you can succeed. And I am just truly, these ladies will always be a family, and I'm hoping, I know that they'll be great role models for other female athletes as well in the community and when they move on. And they will always remember this moment and knowing that just losing, you can't control that sometimes, but you can overcome that and succeed. So thank you so much for having us.
Would Julian Stevens and Kristen Nielsen please come forward? Also, President Anthony J. Daniele and legislators Joseph D. Morelli Jr. and James M. Shepard. Whereas it is the sense of these legislators to honor organizations that improve the lives of our region's children, ensuring that they receive the support and care they need to lead full, healthy, and happy lives. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with longstanding tradition, these legislators are justly proud to honor the Youth Services Quality Council. And whereas, for 22 years, the Council has brought groups throughout Rochester and Monroe County who are focused on serving youth together in common purpose, finding ways for its 46 member organizations to creatively coordinate their efforts to reach more young people and use resources more efficiently. And whereas, in an era where social service organizations must find ways to do more with fewer resources, the Council's work is crucially important, maximizing the impact that nonprofit, for-profit, and public agencies can have on the lives of our region's youth through such efforts as providing professional development and training at no cost to the staff or member organization. And whereas so many young people in our region can be placed at a gross disadvantage for the rest of their lives due to disparities in health, education, and workforce preparedness in their early years, early intervention and support is critical to unlock the full potential of all of Monroe County's youth, and the Council's work is vital towards providing those services. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Anthony J. Daniele, President, Joseph D. Morelli Jr., Legislator District 17, and James M. Shepard, Legislator District 23, honor the Youth Services Quality Council on this 9th day of February 2016 and wish them continued success in their mission. Congratulations.
Hi, we want to just thank the legislator for this honor. We are very, very, very happy. Kristen and I actually are the co-chairs of the executive committee, and these are members of the executive committee, and we represent the Youth Services Quality Council, and really what our focus is to really pour into the frontline youth workers, the people that are on the streets every day working with our young people and our families that are in need. So we provide training, we provide support, we just rally around them, and we just want to say thank you so much. We are very proud.
Thank you.
Would Dr. Christopher Parks and the McQuaid Jesuit volleyball team please come forward? Also, President Anthony J. Daniele and Legislator Joshua Baroth. Whereas it is the sense of these legislators to honor local sports teams that compete at a high level, demonstrating success and good sportsmanship on the field of play and character both on and off. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with long-standing tradition, these legislators are justly proud to honor the McQuaid Jesuit boys varsity volleyball team for their 2015 state championship. And whereas, following a remarkable 14-1 record in the regular season, McQuaid won the Section 5 Class A title, with their final victory coming over top-seeded Penfield, with 3 players being named to the all-tournament team and team member Spencer Wickens being named MVP. And whereas, at the state level, the Knights went 6-0 in pool play, setting up a rematch against Sachem North, last year's state champions. The Knights took all 3 sets and had 3 players named to the state all-tournament team, and team member Eric Johnson named tournament MVP. And whereas McQuaid's coach, Dr. Christopher Parks, should take pride in the remarkable achievement of having coached his team to 4 state titles in 6 years. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Anthony J. Daniele, President, and Joshua Baroth, Legislator District 24, honor the McQuaid Jesuit boys varsity volleyball team members, coaches, dedicated assistants, and parents, and all others who made this season a success on this 9th day of February 2016. Congratulations.
Good evening, and thank you to, obviously, the members gathered here this evening for Monroe County, for our great city of Rochester and the greater Rochester area, as well as being able to represent Section 5, the RCAC, and Home Sweet Home, 1800 South Clinton Avenue in the town of Brighton. It is an honor and a privilege for all of us to be here this evening. Jesuit schools throughout the world hope to graduate students of competence, conscience, and compassion, guided by the Jesuit ideals of being open to growth, religious, loving, intellectually competent, and committed to serving others by doing justice. The gentlemen who are gathered here today embody those ideals and the tenets of the leadership throughout Jesuit schools throughout the world. We hope that we can play one small part in Monroe County and what is achieved in this state. Every time we gather, we do it for one other thing and one other reason, and it is ad maiorem Dei gloriam, for the greater glory of God. To all of you gathered here, to all of those in our great county, our city, to all of the student athletes in all sports that compete in all seasons, officials, fans, and to our Lord our God, and the wonderful words of Father James Fisher of the Society of Jesus and the former president of McQuaid Jesuit. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Test. Well, that cleared the house pretty good right there, huh? All right. Just us now. We will now recess for the purposes of holding several public hearings. I declare open the public hearing on Resolution Intro Number 11 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement Facilities in the Gates-Chiley-Ogden Sewer District General Collection System Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 14 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement Facilities in the Gates-Chiley-Ogden Sewer District Southwest Pump Station Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Intro Number 17 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement Facilities at the Gates-Chiley-Ogden Sewer District Scottsville Road Pump Station and Force Main Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 20 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in the Gates-Chiley-Ogden Sewer District Timpat Pump Station Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on resolution entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of the Facilities of the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District General Pump Station Interceptor Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 26 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of the Facilities in Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District John Street Pump Station Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 29 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District Irondequoit Bay Pump Station Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 32 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District General Pump Station and Interceptor Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 35 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvements of the Facilities in the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District Northwest Quadrant Wastewater Treatment Plant Aeration System Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 38 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in the Rochester Pure Waters District Frank E. Van Laer Thickener Improvements Phase 2.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 41 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvements of Facilities in the Rochester Pure Waters District Frank E. Van Laer Solids Handling Building and Site Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
I declare this public hearing closed and open the public hearing on Resolution Number 44 of 2016 entitled Approving Increase and Improvements of Facilities in Rochester Pure Waters District General Collection System and Treatment Plant Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed and reconvene the February 9th, 2016 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. There are no formal committee reports this evening. We will now hold a public forum, and we have several people registered to address the legislature this evening. Madam Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first three speakers are Mike Nicholson, Sister Grace Miller, and Larry Marks.
Good evening. My name is T. Michael Nicholson. I joined the Bushels Basin Volunteer Fire Department back in 1972 when I was a junior at Fairport High School. I wanted to help the people in my community. 6 months after I joined the fire department, I was struck by a car directing traffic to a fire on Halloween night of 1972. I suffered many broken bones. My back was broken. I was unconscious for 3.5 months, and I've never been able to support myself because of all the injuries that I sustained back in '72. And I believe you have before you a bill sponsored by Senator Rich Funke in the Senate and Assemblyman Joe Morelli in the Assembly. This would grant an automatic cost of living adjustment to the disability benefits of myself and 37 other total permanent disabled volunteer firefighters in New York State. I'm requesting a memorializing resolution from the Monroe County Legislature in support of these two bills. Thank you for letting me speak before you tonight, and thank you very much.
I want to talk about the burials of the poor and the burial fund. Since Maggie Brooks cut the funding for indigent burials in 2006, our poor people have been suffering terrible agony, an agony that never should be placed upon anyone. We've been pleading since 2006 for this legislative body to rescind this policy, but nothing has happened. Poor people are coming to the House of Mercy asking for help with burials of their loved ones, on an average of 5 a week, if not more. The House of Mercy cannot afford the cost, a cost that is rightfully the county's. Recently, we have had 2 homeless men who died who have been treated like they were nobodies. One died November 9th, 2015, was kept in refrigeration until the week after Christmas. We knew the man well. He had been with the House of Mercy for about 30 years. We begged for the body to give the homeless man a dignified Christian burial. We had to wait and wait and wait, about a month and a half. All his friends were asking when we were going to have the funeral service for him. We were helpless because the county would not listen to us. Another homeless person died November 22nd. We buried him last Thursday, February 4th, almost 2.5 months later. We could not show his body because it was decomposed. We had a memorial service for him to give him some dignity. But it was sad to think that this human being, a creature of God, could be so disregarded in death as was our previous friend. This is intolerable, and we believe this county should be doing something to help poor people who die to be buried in dignity, and also for our homeless who die to be treated in dignity. So we're asking you to please take this under consideration and do something to help our poor. The money is there. You cannot tell us the money is not there. You find money for other things, you can find money for the poor.
I'm Larry Marks. I'm Executive Director of the Children's Agenda. We're a 13-year-old advocacy organization for children and youth, the 200,000 kids in Monroe County. And we work to improve their health, education, and well-being through advocacy for evidence-based solutions and policy change at the local, state, and federal level. I wanted to talk about 2 things. I wanted to talk about children's emotional behavioral health, and I want to talk about the current state legislature and some issues that I think we can team up together on for the benefit of Monroe County children. I'm struck by how rightly you honor these emblems of children and youth in this chamber for their resilience and perseverance, whether it's, kicking and punting on the way to the national team, or getting to the state championship, or fighting a serious eating disorder. 1 out of 5 children at any given time face a diagnosable mental illness. 1 out of 5 children, according to the Greater Rochester Health Foundation recent commission report. So you may have seen in the news, we are going to be teaming up with them on an advocacy effort for children's emotional behavioral health, and that's because it's an urgent crisis. We have, as the IBM report has stated, as the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative has stated, disconnected systems that affect children, whether it's the courts, the schools, the families, or the medical providers. And 70% of city students in Rochester have faced a trauma, such as a violent death of a member of their family. We've got 1 out of 5 of the children who have a diagnosable mental illness, only 1 out of 5 able to find a provider to care for them. So you'll be hearing more from us about this issue. I want to switch and talk about my other full-time job, which is being on the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative, steering committee and policy team. There's an agenda put forward now that has the community support. That agenda is being fought for right now, increased support for child care assistance, things like a career and technical education pathway for a Regents diploma, things like increased support for home visitation like the Nurse Family Partnership Program, and integration with other key evidence-based home visitation programs. We want to partner with you under the umbrella of the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative and work on that agenda together in Albany. We've got a couple months now. There's a lot of good we can do together for the benefit of the 200,000 children and youth in our county. Thank you.
Our final 3 speakers are Bridget Hurley, Tom Gregory, and Jenny Lundberg.
Good evening. I'm Bridget Hurley with the Children's Agenda, and just sort of elaborating a bit on Larry's remarks. So every year, as you know, I take a look at the Monroe County budget and assess how it impacts kids. I do the same for the New York State budget. So I just wanted to share with you some preliminary findings that have come out of our analysis of the state budget. So first of all, child care subsidies. As you know, in the past, the Children's Agenda has joined with county leaders as well as city leaders, advocates, parents, providers to advocate for more child care funding for Monroe County's families. And this year the governor is proposing level funding for child care subsidies statewide, but we're very concerned. And we're concerned because in 2016 there will be some new federal regulations that will go into effect. And we expect, we're told, that will cost about $90 million to implement these new regulations. At the current time, it looks like New York State and providers will assume the costs of those regulations. And we're concerned because it may be that New York State will actually cut subsidy funding in order to pay for their portion of the regs, and some providers, many of whom are small businesses that have very low profit margins, will actually go out of business. So there may be fewer providers in Monroe County. So as Larry said, we invite you to join us in advocating at the state level for more funding, as well as at the federal level for more funding so that those regulations can be implemented without hurting providers in the subsidy program. Secondly, home visitation. As you know, Monroe County operates one of the oldest nurse-family partnership programs in the state. And as Larry said, there are some other evidence-based home visitation programs. These are really important. These are very cost-effective for the county. They change the lives of many of the moms and babies that participate and save us money in terms of spending on juvenile justice, public assistance, special education, et cetera. Finally, raise the age. The governor is proposing a change in New York State's juvenile justice policy to bring it in line with 48 other states. Right now, New York State treats 16 and 17-year-olds as adults in the criminal justice system, and the governor is proposing that we change that. We support this because there is much evidence that treating youth as adults places them at great risk while they're incarcerated in adult prisons. If they're in juvenile justice facilities, they are much less likely to be released and commit crimes again. So we're actually increasing safety in our community by treating 16 and 17-year-olds as juveniles. The issue, of course, is funding. So we are saying to New York State, you need to fund the appropriate services for these kids if they're going to be treated in juvenile justice facilities. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with the Children's Agenda. Thank you.
I'd like to speak to the letter that I presented to the legislature. But prior to doing that, I was listening to the president of the legislature read off these projects, and I was thinking, by gosh, I worked on every one of those things, almost every one of the major projects. I was thinking back in the 1970s when we did that. That was something really new in the nation. The nation had a lot of primary and secondary treatment facilities, but this was I believe they called it a tertiary treatment. This is really a big thing, and it started here in Monroe County, or not started, but it was enhanced here in Monroe County. Somewhat like this discussion that we're having regarding the Office of Public Integrity. I'd like to point out something. I haven't read the amendment yet presented by the county executive, but I want to point out that we're guaranteed a Republican form of government, and I don't mean Republican Party. I mean that each one of our votes carry equal weight, and that is really important. That's guaranteed not only by the state, but also by our federal constitutions. My concern, should we decide to make this a 5-year appointment, is that really what we're going to be doing, the group of electors, the people who vote in 4 years' time, are going to have a part of their vote diminished by the fact that they don't have say over that person who will have a 5-year independent role. That means that in the year 2032, whoever the county executive is will have absolutely no say over this person. But worse than that is the people who vote in that election won't have any say whatsoever. Their vote will be diminished. And that is not Republican government, which is guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America, is guaranteed by our state constitution. The solution's simple. I think that the amendment should possibly be amended. If you're going to do this, at least make the appointment within the term of the county executive. And I think that's a simple solution. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Jenny Lundberg. I'm the president of Monroe County Farm Bureau. We're here today as representatives of Monroe County Agriculture through our involvement in Monroe County Farm Bureau. We represent those in the community who grow food, raise livestock, and are stewards of the land. We grow your Christmas trees, Thanksgiving turkeys, and the wine you drink to celebrate. Farmers in Monroe County, we are the ice cream on your apple pie and the milk in your coffee, all locally produced. We are your neighbors. As land transitions from farming to developments, we look to our friends at Soil and Water Conservation District, Cornell Cooperative Extension, and MCC for guidance. The farming community relies on the funding you provide to these organizations to educate and promote stability and growth in Monroe County agriculture. We appreciate that support. We ask you, our elected representatives, to consider the impact you have on agriculture every time you vote. Please reach out to us with any questions or concerns you have regarding agriculture in Monroe County. Thank you for taking the time today to meet with us, enjoy some of the bounty of Monroe County agriculture. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to contact us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
We will now proceed with the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 16-0055.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Taylor. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item, please.
Item number 2, referral 16-0055.
Legislator Marianetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to offer an amendment to referral 16-0055. Second.
I have a first and a second. Is the staff handing out those? I'll give this body a couple minutes to read this amendment. Yes, Legislator Kale.
A little confused as to the appropriate time for this, but a point of information. Since this is the first time we have had this text, I would like to have a 3 to 5 minute recess so that we can look at it and discuss it. We'll be right back.
I'll give you a couple minutes, about 2 minutes.
Recess, though.
I prefer not to do a recess, but you can. We will not move forward for at least 2 minutes. How's that sound?
So we are allowed to get out of our seats is the question. I mean, I can't.
You are allowed to get out of your seats, yes.
Thank you.
Tom, would you let them know we're about to get started? Thank you. have the floor.
This amendment I offer today is a result of many discussions and lots of hard work by the DeNolfo administration. This amendment will strengthen the current Office of Public Integrity proposal in front of the legislature. The best oversight comes from transparency, and this amendment will pave the way for more transparency and accountability in Monroe County government. Since this proposal was introduced last month, we've had many productive conversations with the county executive, and I'm proud of this amendment I'm offering today. Included in this proposal is a ban on political activity by the director of this office, a 5-year term which can only be ended for cause by the county executive, and even then, a report detailing the reasons for removal must be sent to the legislature. Additionally, county employees will be required to participate with this office, and the director will be able to issue subpoenas for documents and testimony from all private vendors, including LDCs. Finally, this amendment will do our best to protect whistleblowers' privacy to the greatest extent by law so that anyone can be free to report wrongdoing or wasteful spending. It's my hope that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will join me tonight in supporting this amendment, which will strengthen this proposal. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Legislator Marianetti. We have a motion to amend by Marianetti, a second by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Legislator Broth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you recognizing me to speak to this amendment. Before I do, though, I have a point of information. I need some clarification on whether or not, on an introductory motion only, an amendment can be actually made to such a thing.
It can when it is on the agenda.
Then, so I fully understand. If it were not on the agenda, then that would not be a possibility. Is that what I understand?
Correct. Past practice would dictate that would not be.
Thank you. And then finally, as a final clarification piece, then my question would be, what would be the process for actually getting an amendment placed onto the agenda?
Anything that's placed on the agenda is requested to the Office of the President in advance, and then it's, I guess, my decision whether or not it should be placed on the agenda.
Okay. So at your discretion, then?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Then I actually have a few other topic matters onto the actual amendment itself, and so it's not a point of information anymore.
No problem.
Thank you. Actually, I must say I'm very pleased that Legislator Marianetti was speaking towards the question of transparency, because I think, in fact, what's one of the most important things we can actually have in the process that we're going forth in terms of adding a new office to the county executive. I'm happy that these amendments are here, but I'm sad I had approximately 2.5 minutes to read over them, because unlike the other side of the aisle, which got to review these amendments in their exact language prior to this meeting, we do not have that luxury, and so it makes it very difficult for us to fully understand the language that's put into this. So I would question the totality of the transparency of this process. I recognize that often there's a challenge in terms of time and whether or not we can speak offline or get together, and that reaching out process can be slow, and I appreciate that. But I do wish that when the actual amendment was made final, and that must have happened prior to 20 minutes before this meeting, that all members of the legislature could be made privy to the information that was being handed out just now. And I say that because I think, frankly, that this is actually promising. I was very pleased when I looked and see, in terms of the language quickly, like it incorporated the local development corporations. I think that's actually a very critical piece, and I'm very appreciative of that as well. And I'm also very pleased that it does, in fact, include suggestions and ideas that came from, I am sure, the majority, but also from the minority and members others who are not even members of this body. And for that reason, I'm very appreciative of that as well. I just wish that we actually had a bit more of a chance to speak to this before then, is all I would like to say.
Just as a point of information, this evening we'll be tabling the matter. We'll be setting a public hearing, so you'll have all month to consider.
I realize, but sometimes it's best to know ahead of time if you want to vote for or against the amendment, or if you want to make an amendment to the amendment, and all those possibilities as well. So I would just point that out. I mean, I could, but it's tough to write it down and get in a form that's acceptable to this body in about 30 seconds. That's a challenge, and I'll own that I'm not up to that challenge. So, thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Broth. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Legislator Muyo.
Thank you. In the short time I've had to review this amendment, I'd like to commend the administration and other members of the legislature for taking into account a number of the criticisms that I had in the Agenda Charter Committee last month, so I certainly appreciate some of the language that's been incorporated that would increase the transparency and the accountability that the Director of the Office of Public Administration will have. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator. Any further discussion on the amendment? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, just a question as to, this obviously has a lot more detail than the previous legislation. So my question would be how or where within the county budget will we see this being funded from? Is there money coming out of an additional line item in a way to pay for this new director and this new office?
Through you, Mr. President, the original referral as submitted a month ago indicated that subsequent legislation would be coming forward that would provide the funding and an explanation as to how it was to be paid for.
Through you, Mr. President, I think it's fair to get an understanding of where the money's coming from before we vote on this. So when exactly will we know when that's going to happen or how much this is going to cost?
Through you, Mr. President, the intent is to authorize the establishment of the office to hire the director who would then lay out the necessary staffing and resource requirements as they saw it, and that at the end that the cost would have no net impact on the county budget.
Mr. President, it seems that the legislation would create a department. We would have a director. A director would set out what it needs, but yet we haven't even figured out a way to pay for the director. So I think it's fair to ask the question and understand where the money's coming from, even to hire a director. The administration has told us that they will come out with a budget, which I appreciate. And I think that's important, but that being said, we still should know where the money's coming from, even for the director. That being said, I do want to thank you, Mr. President, the Majority Leader, as well as the County Executive for adding the additional, I think as the media put it, teeth to this legislation. I think that moving forward is certainly is a new day for Monroe County, and I thank the administration for that.
Thank you, Legislator Morelli. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 16-0055.
Moved by Legislator Connolly and seconded by Legislator Taylor. This is a tabling motion. All in favor, please signify say aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 16-0055.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Taylor. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Legislator Morelli. I'm sorry, Legislator Marionetti.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah. She said it, I didn't.
Too many Morelli majority.
Yeah, right. Uh-oh.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to make a motion that we move the following items and they be considered with one vote. That would be items 5 through 62, with the exception of items 50 and 58.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Legislator Cayley. We are moving items number 5 through 62 with the exceptions of item 50 and 58. Is that correct? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All those items carry. We are to item number 50. Madam Clerk.
Item number 50, referral 16-0045.
Moved by legislator Howland, seconded by legislator Draw. Any discussion? Yes, legislator Braw.
Thank you. Through the President to the administration, I want to follow up on a question I had from Ways and Means, and that was regarding map 15 and the question of whether or not funds used to pay for this property access could be used for paying off back due taxes. And the question was unresolved last I heard from legal. We have an update.
Through the President, you contract to buy it in order to acquire the property. There is no process under New York state law where you can offset that payment by delinquent taxes that are owed.
So I'm clear, through the President to the administration, the response is that it is not possible to actually apply the funds that we're using to purchase this access to pay for back due taxes. We cannot do that.
There's no process to force it.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
You can't force it. You can't compel the offset.
Okay. So that's something that we need to address at either the local level or the state level through the President.
To state level.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item is item number 58. Madam Clerk.
Item number 58, referral 16-0054.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Taylor. Any discussion? Yes, legislator Broth.
Mr. President, I rise to make an amendment to this referral.
Do we have a second? Seconded by legislator Cayley and seconded by legislator Flagler Mitchell. And I assume the staff is passing it out. I'll ask if legislator Marianetti would like 3 minutes to review it, but it looks like a pretty short one. So.
It's okay if he does. It's fine.
All right. No, I wouldn't allow a recess. Legislator Barat, you have the floor.
Thank you. For those of you who have been here in past years, you realize this is not a new topic for me, and I've raised this amendment a number of times. I believe this may be my 4th or 5th time I've made this amendment. And over the years of making this particular amendment, I've learned a few things. One, it costs nothing. I want to be clear on this. It costs nothing. There is no cost associated with adding an additional newspaper to the list of official newspapers. There is no cost to this. The administration has total freedom to determine which and how many of the official newspapers it chooses to use when it has to make official publications. And the past administrations have confirmed this, and unless there's something new, I'm going to accept from silence on the administration's part that has not changed, that in fact the administration has total control over the costs associated with the use of the official newspaper list. I'll pause momentarily.
Are you asking?
I'm just giving them a chance. I'm asking if through the President has that changed? Does not the administration control the cost of the official newspaper listing?
Can you restate that question just so I understand it?
I want to make sure that the administration agrees through the President that the administration controls which newspapers it uses from the list of official newspapers, thus controlling what the cost would be for any given announcement.
Through you, Mr. President, that is correct.
Thank you. I'd also like to point out from this, from past years that I've learned over time, that not only does this cost nothing, but as we may know, from the referral itself, it talks about having providing the greatest latitude or the greatest passage of, I want to find the exact phrase, the broadest readership possible was in the referral itself, to provide the broadest readership possible. As we all know, the DNC's readership is vastly larger than that of the Rochester Business Journal and the Daily Record by several orders of magnitude. I might be exaggerating that a little bit, but it's dramatically different. So if we actually want to abide by the letter and the spirit of this referral, which is to maintain the broadest possible readership and most efficiently use our financial resources, which we can still do, adding the Democrat and Chronicle, the most widely read newspaper in this county, to the list of official newspapers has no cost and potentially broad benefits. I would also point out that I've learned over time that many other public entities, towns, boards, commissions, utilize the DNC for that very purpose. Yet we do not. But we could. At the administration's discretion, they could or could not use it for any given announcement. It's up to them. And finally, I'll point out this resolution that I've put forth 4 or 5 times, it's just simply the right thing to do. There's no downside. I mean, I suppose there's one potential downside, and that's that I brought it up. But that shouldn't be a downside. You know, that should be a neutral thing. This is something that I think it's a no-brainer. It's a great thing to do, has no cost, would make people feel good, and might, given unusual circumstances, even be to the administration's benefit if it wanted to say, put in a notification in the DNC, but save some money by not putting it in the Rochester Business Journal. Just a possibility. It could happen. This is our opportunity to give the administration a tool for greater flexibility. Now, I say this with a bit of a smile, but I say it with all seriousness. There's no downside here. It's just something the right thing to do. So I'd ask my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to make that bold leap, to vote for something that actually has no cost, has only possible benefits. It would really make me happy. I mean, think about the kittens. I'm a little punchy because this is the 5th time I'm doing this. We can get it right, I swear to God. And if I can get one person to respond, I'm willing to work with you on any changes, adjustments, pieces of, I don't know, flattery and suggestion that you think might work to get this mild, costless amendment passed. So if I have anyone do that, it would be just incredibly awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Brough. If I may, your presentation gets better and better every year. So, is there any further discussion? Legislator Draw.
If I could ask through you, what would be the cost of through you to the administration of using the Democrat and Chronicle versus the other newspapers?
Through you, Mr. President, recent inquiries into the Daily Record, the Rochester Business Journal, and the Democrat and Chronicle, we received quotes from the Daily Record of $1.31 per line, $1 per line from the Rochester Business Journal, and $13 per line from the Democrat and Chronicle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Felder, did you? I will also note that Legislator Felder is the second on record. I don't think I mentioned that when it got moved.
The Daily Record and the Rochester Business Journal are 2 papers that are only read by selected groups of people. The Daily Record, particularly lawyers and people in that area, and the Rochester Business Journal, business people and people, so ordinary citizens a lot of times will not see the notices that go out from the county about the bids or whatever else is going on because they're not reading, they basically don't read those papers. And I think it'll make more sense to have, not that you should get rid of the other ones, but I think you should have the most widely read paper in the area that so ordinary citizens can read and know what's going on in the county when these things are coming up. I think that makes it more practical just from a humane standpoint.
Thank you. Legislator Roth.
And I would just like to point out to the President and the legislature as a whole that the $13 per line for the DNC would only apply if the administration chose to actually utilize the DNC for a particular publication. And in fact, the administration might actually determine at some point in time the extra cost might be worth it in some given circumstance. I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
On the amendment, Mr. Marinetti? No. Ms. Cayley? Mr. Alcoffer? Mr. Ansello? No. Mr. Baroth? Ms. Boyce? Mr. Brew? No. Mrs. Brown? Dr. Carbone? Mrs. Conley? Mr. Delahanty? No. Mrs. DeFlorio? No. Mrs. Draw? No. Mr. Felder? Yes. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell? Yes. Ms. Harris? Yes. Mr. Hebert? No. Mr. Howland? No. Mr. Lightfoot? Yes. Mr. Michike? Yes. Mr. Morelli? Yes. Mr. Moyo? Yes. Mr. Rocco? Yes. Mr. Shepard? Yes. Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Terp? Yes. Mr. Wilcox? Yes. Mr. Zale? No. President Daniele?
No.
10 to 19, amendment fails.
On to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? There being none, all those in favor, I think we'll do a roll call vote.
On the main motion, Mr. Marionetti? Yes. Ms. Cayley? Yes. Mr. Alcoffer? Yes. Mr. Ansello? Yes. Mr. Baroth? Ms. Boyce? Yes. Mr. Brew? Yes. Mrs. Brown? Yes. Dr. Carbone? Yes. Mrs. Conley? Yes. Mr. Delahanty? Yes. Mrs. DeFlorio? Yes. Mrs. Draw? Yes. Mr. Felder? Yes. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell? No. Ms. Harris? Yes. Mr. Hebert? Yes. Mr. Howland? Yes. Mr. Lightfoot? Mr. Michike? Yes. Mr. Morelli? Yes. Mr. Moyo? Yes. Mr. Rocco? Yes. Mr. Shepard? Yes. Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Terp? Yes. Mr. Wilcox? Yes. Mr. Zale? Yes. President Daniele?
Yes.
28 to 1, resolution passes.
There being no unfinished business, Legislator Marionetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. We stand adjourned until 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 8th, 2016.